Welcome back. Right now, it's about 2:15 or so in the morning in Ukraine. We understand the Russian military has now upped their offensive against Ukraine and against Kyiv in particular. You can see clashes near the zoo and near Maidan Square. That is right in the downtown of Kyiv. There's been hits on residential buildings as well. We understand that the Russians are now considering using far more aggressive tactics and weapons that target purely civilian populations as they try to bring the Ukrainians to their knees. These are people who have held out against the Russian army in a way that no one thought possible. A big part of that has been their politicians who have taken up arms and headed the streets. The president of Ukraine saying famously, when offered an evacuation route, "I need weapons, not a ride." Another one of the politicians involved in the fight, Sviatoslav Yurash, member of the Ukrainian parliament, former spokesperson for the Ukrainian president, and a man I met 8 years ago out in eastern Ukraine during the war there. Good to see you, sir. It's in the middle of the night.
Pleasure.
How are you guys doing?
We are holding strong. The point is, it is our city, it is our country, it is our nation. We will not let Mr. Putin destroy it just because he wants to. Again, my generation was born in independent Ukraine and shall die in independent Ukraine. We do not want to give in.
Sviat, what I think is so amazing when we look at all of the weapons now that the world is giving you all, Canada, Sweden, Belgium, Portugal, Greece, Romania, Spain, Czechoslovakia, all pitching in. The world has been inspired by Ukraine standing up. And one thing that struck all of us is the age of the people signing up for the Ukrainian Defense Forces. In the same way you said the younger generation knows freedom, the older generation knows what it was like to live under Soviet Russian rule, and they'd rather die than see that happen again.
Amen. The point here is that everybody in this nation finally sees what Russia is all about. It's about death, murder, destruction, annihilation, and we do not want that. We don't want our future to be what our past was through the 20th century. We lived through Stalin, we'll survive through this. But the point for us remains central, that Putin now is doing the unthinkable. He's destroying the global world order by trying to destroy the biggest European state. Our nation is fair, our nation is young, our nation is beautiful, our nation deserves more than this. You saw that, Leland, when you were here. The point here is we stand to defend all that against Mr. Putin.
What we saw in the pictures of people with bottles, there's now makeshift manufacturing facilities for Molotov cocktails if the Russians are able to penetrate the city centers and come in. How much longer can you all hold on?
This is a nation of more than 40 million people. We are determined. You saw maybe the footage today of people going with Ukrainian flags, unarmed, to Russian soldiers and telling them their city is Ukraine. You saw the footage. You can see the.
Looks like Sviatoslav's signal is frozen, which is understandable. One of the things that has been given to the Ukrainians and has arrived just in the past 24 hours is a number of Starlink satellite uplinks. Elon Musk flew over a huge number of satellite uplinks to keep the internet alive in Ukraine so that they can tell the story. It's obviously one of the things the Russians hate getting out. Sviat, if you're still with us, what is the world understood, you think, in the past 48 or 72 hours about Vladimir Putin that they didn't for so long?
They understood what Ukraine is about and what Russia is about. They saw our resilience, our resolve, and our defiance in the face of one of the great suns of the world. They saw Russia presenting what actually is an aggressive, imperialistic state that, despite being the biggest nation on earth, still wants to conquer more, kill more, take more. We are showing the world the true struggle of our century between the international justice, international lawlessness, and we are standing on the side of justice together with you.
Well, and boy, has the world now recognized really the bravery of the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian civilians and the politicians themselves. Twofold question. Tell us, since you were his spokesperson, what what we need to know about President Zelensky on one side, and the second side, how worried are you all about this potential threat from Vladimir Putin to use either nuclear weapons or chemical weapons?
President Zelensky is very clear. Again, he is not leaving the capital. He is going to throw away Ukraine's government into the hands of the Russians, and he's going to be with us till the very end, defending our capital. That is fundamental to understand him and our nation. We are determined to keep our freedom, to keep our nation going. As far as the Russian threat of this and that and the other, we expect all that because Russia has its cost for this war and is willing to pay it because it wants to take us whole. It wants to destroy us as a nation. And we are going to stand strong with the world and let the world see the reality of Russian aggression through any kind of weapons they throw at us. And we hope that the world joins in many more ways than already are present, because we need everything. Nothing is enough than fighting the Russian army.
Well, that is true, and the world is answering the call. Sviat Yurash, member of the parliament, my old friend and translator in the eastern part of Ukraine during the war in 2014, the former presidential spokesperson. Stay safe, my friend. The world is watching, and the world is proud of your stand for democracy. It is a struggle of all time.
Amen. Thank you, Leland.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.